Hole in a Box by C.S.R.
Chapter 12. Hello, my old friend. Marla walked closely behind Fafalor, but in front of Malsum, presumably so she was easier to catch if she tried to run away. For some reason, they didn't tell her why, Fafalor gave her a cloak like theirs to wear. They had already left town and were now in the area known as the Black Depths. Marla tried not to look around too much, even though her eyes begged her, because she was instructed to not bring attention to herself. But she couldn't hear people shuffling around, behind the scenes in this junkyard-like area. There was the scraping of metal and the smell of burnt everything. Figures shifted around in the corner of her eyes, but Marla knew better than to raise her head to look. Marla began to speak.
I think I figured out what you are.
Her eyes peered up at Fafalor, who still had his back turned to her.
Oh, really?
He prodded.
What am I?
A tempter.
Right you are. You know, I thought you might be way below average intelligence, but you might just be barely average.
Marla gave out one of her sighs and looked at the floor again.
Aha! Here we are.
Fafalor stopped, and Malsum pushed Marla to be next to the both of them. In front of the trio was a cottage by a vast lake. The area they were in was like a well-lit cave, made of black and purple stone. Those who were surrounding them would follow no further, for this was someone's territory, and it seemed that you would not want to be a trespasser.
This is our little hideout. No one comes to the Black Depths unless you're like us, and if you're like us, well, you aren't really any trouble, technically.
The three proceeded to walk toward the cottage. Malsum once again got behind Marla and placed his big, stone-like hands on her shoulders to limit her movement. Fafalor stopped in front of the door and gave a pattern of knocks. 4, pause, 2, pause, and 2 more. He waited, and then the door was opened by a hand the color of Aurelian yellow. The owner's other hand crept onto the door, revealing to have no nails and only 3 fingers and a thumb. Soon, whatever it was, crept the rest of their body into the doorway. They were bald and had no eyes or eye sockets, but had big slit nostrils in the middle of their face and ear holes on either side of their head. Despite wearing a tan cloak as well, you could see that the person was thin and had a little more of a feminine physique. The stranger started with a scratchy, yet female voice.
Fafalor and Malsum, you brought a guest.
She sniffed the air.
A little human girl?
She reluctantly said, and gave a rather sad sigh, and then opened the door all the way to let everyone in. All 3 walked into the cottage in the same order they had walked across the Black Depths. Fafalor took his cloak off and hung it on the wall. Marla also took her cloak off, but couldn't reach the coat rack, so Malsum grabbed her cloak and hung it up for her. Fafalor looked at the woman and said,
Not just any human girl, but I brought the Marla, something that Javis couldn't do.
He sounded so self-righteous and proud of himself. Marla went over to her and greeted.
Hello.
The woman innocently smiled at Marla, showing a normal set of teeth with the exception of 4 fangs. She bent over, put one of her ear holes near Marla, and responded.
Hello there. I'm Charla. May I get a look at you?
Sure.
Charla then reached out her hands and touched Marla's face with them. She stroked her cheeks and felt up the curves that shaped her face.
My,
Charla said, as she removed her hands.
you've got a really unique facial structure for a human girl.
Oh.
Marla looked away and blushed, but then remembered that she looked different than her usual self.
Where's Wink?
Fafalor asked as he stretched out. Charla stood up and inched away from Marla and responded.
He's out back, swimming in the lake.
Here he comes now.
As Fafalor said this, a man of the color aquamarine came into the room from the door on the opposite end of the room. He had webbed hands and feet and sort of fin-like ears. He had 2 eyes that had several layers of light blues, which were of different variation. Where eyes would normally be, and had a third eye on his chin. He had gills running down his torso and a shark mouth on his back. He wore nothing but black skin-tight shorts. The man paused when he first saw Marla, but then gasped in excitement and blurted,
You must be Marla.
His eyes then made it to Charla's sad expression, and his tone calmed.
Oh, yes. Welcome, little one. I'm Daryl, but you can just call me Wink if you want.
Marla hesitantly replied.
Hello, Daryl. Wink.
She could tell that Daryl and Charla were both friendly and wanted to cause no one any harm, but they were obviously hiding something that pained them.
What's this?
Malcolm grunted as he pulled at Marla's bag to peer inside of it. He grabbed hold of her drawing of Jarvis.
Is this supposed to be Javis?
Ooh, can I see?
Daryl said as he came running over. Fafalor started laughing at Marla and the drawing in a mocking tone. He then said in a tantalizing voice,
I get it. You've got a crush.
I don't.
Marla's voice squeaked.
Aw, now I'm kinda jealous.
Daryl teased.
It's not like that. Please give it back.
But before anyone could carry on, Jarvis burst into the room.